Hi, my name is Sarah Reese, and I'm a project director with the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force. I have been at the task force for 7 years, and my primary role there, and of the organizers on the team that I work on, is to partner with state and local communities who are facing anti or pro-LGBT referenda, and work side by side on the ground, teaching them how to do direct action organizing. So that's what I've been doing in California for the last 2 years. I was asked to come here 2 years ago to serve as the field director for Let California Ring, and then I transitioned to when we moved into Decline to Sign, which isn't really talked about as part of the No on 8 campaign, but we can't forget that the momentum we built really was because of the work that we did engaging with folks in January, February, March, as we were asking people all over the state not to sign. So I was in San Diego working with the folks down there, and then when we flipped the switch on the campaign, I was honored to be asked to serve as the statewide field director. Now, it should be mentioned, while the task force had 9 organizers here, we weren't the only organization that donated staff in addition to those folks we hired. So Equality California, HRC, Family Equality Council, the San Diego Center, the LA Gay and Lesbian Center all had field staff that were dedicated to the campaign. So Steve Smith asked us to do one thing. So lots of campaigns have lots of different definitions of field, and this was our role, which was to build a big team of volunteers to talk one-on-one with voters. And our job was to train the volunteers to have that two-way conversation, using the messages that were being delivered from the strategists, training them, and then getting them on the phone and in the streets to talk with people about the campaign. So I'm gonna give you just the facts. I'm happy to answer questions, give you my advice, give you my analysis, but for this 2 minutes that Anna's given me, just the facts. So the field strategy and timeline was to use highly experienced volunteers to identify 3 to 4% of the votes to win, meaning finding no voters, people who committed that they would vote no on election day, from a persuadable universe. So there's been questions, were we doing persuasion, were we doing ID? We were doing ID from a universe of people that we hoped were still undecided or movable to be with us by election day. So the 4 things we really spent time doing was we spent the summer building a big team of volunteers, creating the materials we would need, conducting, training them, implementing some systematic leadership development, raising grassroots money. We implemented grassroots fundraising from day 1 in this field campaign, and increasing awareness in our LGBT base. The plan called for the bulk of voter contact to begin in August and September, because we were doing ID, when voters were starting to wake up to the fact that there was an election happening, and move through the myriad of other things that were on the ballot. And we would do that using phones with a predictive and auto dialer technology, and of course old school with landlines and cell phones. We would launch a statewide and national phone from home program, and we would hope to execute the largest polling place election day action, primarily focusing in base turf. And the job was to have a one-on-one conversation, one final chance to talk with voters, because we knew turnout was not an issue, right? Everyone was going to be voting in this election. And to make sure that we were stopping wrong way voting. Because as Chad mentioned some of our other tracking polls, we also knew that there was a high likelihood that people who wanted to be no voters were confused and were going to vote yes. So that was the secondary purpose for being there on election day. So we had 2 primary field tactics, volunteer recruitment, and we did that in 3 ways. We used existing lists to call people and ask them to get involved. We called our friends and family who weren't on those existing lists. And we did lots of in-person and face-to-face recruitment. In the 7 years I've been in the task force, this campaign was the heaviest in-person volunteer recruitment that I have been a part of, and it was amazing to see. We did voter contact in 4 ways. We phone banked using landlines and cell phones. We ended up with an auto dialer, not a predictive dialer, and there is a difference. We did high traffic visibility. So in base turf, the purpose wasn't just to stand and hold signs, while that is fun, and it's fun to have people honk at us. We were looking for places where we could engage in that two-way conversation with the population, knowing that word of mouth was going to be important, and needing to find people who maybe we hadn't reached in other ways We were in high traffic locations doing that. And then again, being at the polling places on election day. So the numbers, and these are low. One of the challenges of this campaign was literally tracking everything that all of you were doing. So there are conversations and voters that are not reflected in these numbers, but this is our best guess, that from our volunteer recruitment, which started May 15th, Long Beach Pride was the first large action. We have 51,000 people in the database who said yes to doing something at least once. Of those, we know that we recruited 59,623 volunteer shifts, and a shift is a 3-hour time commitment. And of those, we had 47,663 shifts worked. So you multiply by that by 3 hours, and that's how many hours. I'm going to have 50 more seconds because Chad did it.
And like Anne mentioned, I'm sorry, like Sarah mentioned, she'll be available for questions later on. So. We can move on.
Oh, well, let me just go. So the fundraising, which you just didn't get to see, we raised 1.3 million from face-to-face asks, which was unprecedented. And then we had a phone from home program, which started late, but was fabulous. We had 32 states participating, plus counties in California, and 3 countries. We had visibility and GeoTV actions the final 10 days. And our Election Day action ended up being the largest Election Day action in the history of the LGBT anti-gay referendum.
Thank you so much. Now they're presenting their community feedback on the No on A campaign is Pamela Brown, who's Policy Director, and Molly McKay, Media Director for Marriage Equality USA.
Hello, Love Warriors! I've been looking around this room and thinking, my God, it is really an honor to be in this room. There are some serious love warriors in here, so it is very exciting. I don't know what will come of today, but with all the people who are here, I know it is ripe with opportunity. My name is Molly McKay. I am with Marriage Equality USA, and I just want to give out a big thank you to everyone for everything you did last year, and you all earned your Purple Heart, have we not? Yes, we did, but we survived. And now this year we are ready to thrive. Who's ready to re-enlist in the Love Warrior movement for another year? Yes? Who's ready to see the weddings begin again? Yes? Who's ready to make sure those 18,000 couples stay married? All right, well, I am going to introduce my posse member, math major, and policy director, Pam Brown, who did the lion's share work of collecting this report.
I always sound so boring after Molly, and I'm sporting laryngitis. We'll just move on to the next. What we wanted to be able to do here today is to share the community input we received about the No on 8 campaign. We got it through 2 primary areas. First, our organization and many organizations here today hosted a series of town halls across California, which brought the community together to heal, but also reflect and constructively examine the No on 8 prop campaign. In addition to that, our organization put an online survey together, and with that, we got thousands and thousands of comments, and we presented this in 2 reports that you can get off of our website. The first one, We Will Never Go Back, presents our summary of the grassroots feedback on the No on 8 campaign. And the second one, Prop 8 Hurt My Family, Ask Me How, presents stories that illustrate the harm with initiative campaigns like Prop 8. So we'll move to the next.
Okay, so before we launch into that, we do really want to say that we've come a long way, baby. And amazing things did happen during the No on 8 campaign. We raised more money than we ever thought possible. There were dedicated field staff and volunteers who worked their hearts out. And our election results showed that we gained support in every California county. And in the end, the gap between victory and loss was only 2%. And polling after the November 15th join the impact rallies showed that enough soft 8 voters had already changed their minds after seeing those rallies, reflecting on what's happened. Today, we want to provide the collective wisdom. We want to honor the voices in our community, the people who are on the front lines, the lives who are being directly affected by this. And thousands of people responded. It's not to point blame, but it's to have our community heard, to reflect on what has happened, to acknowledge some of the mistakes that were made, and then plan how we go forward from here together. With each area of concern, we also provide some hope for the future on how to move ahead.
Our dance. It's a two-step. Our first point is that, on the next slide, clergy leaders were underutilized by the No on 8 campaign. When we did our survey,
Maybe have people who are members of the clergy, if you could just stand, can we just honor you guys? Thank you.
Our survey respondents identified clergy leaders as the most effective messengers in promoting marriage equality. And we got comments back from many people in Massachusetts echoing the same thing. They said within our state we had a coalition of religious leaders from supportive communities of faith that were visible and vocal throughout the process. And in California, our clergy leaders had a unique story to share. Many of them had performed marriage ceremonies for same-sex couples. See if I can do this. And they were also the best spokespeople to counter the Yes on 8 faith leaders that were in that area. Unfortunately, an over-reliance on the focus group findings and concerns about the Qualcomm event limited their exposure in this campaign and their visibility in this campaign, and they were directed to be participating in phone banks often instead of some other activities that might be more down their line. But the benefit of this is that we have a lot of supportive clergy out there that have been identified through the amicus brief that was filed with the on the recent case. Over 850 clergy, different members of faith communities and congregations. They're all identified by their cities, and you can reach out to them as a starting point to bring them in and to work ahead.
Leaders of color were underutilized by the No on 8 campaign. There is a very, very deep bench of leaders from the Black, Asian, Latino, and Native American communities. And we must have a campaign where all communities are well represented as leaders, as spokespeople, and in campaign literature. We must have funding not just to create, but to distribute Spanish and Asian language materials, and ads were needed at the outset of the campaign. We must make institutional changes so that LGBTI leadership and organizations reflect the natural diversity of our communities. Institutional changes. And we must support and fully fund organizations that are already successfully and fantastically doing targeted outreach, such as And Marriage for All, Vienna Star, Honor Pack, API Equality, to name just a few.
All right. Our next one is relates to the advertising that's out there. You can't take the gay and the marriage out of an issue that deals with marriage and gay people. Our respondents came back with messages that the ads were too abstract and they inexcusably excluded LGBTI people. While stories and images of same-sex couples flooded the airways in June and July as we were getting married, they were absent in the official ads that were out there. We had respondents. This was probably a theme that was the loudest in many of the comments that we got and in the town halls that we had. The decision to hide gay people was unacceptable. There were concerns that the messaging was swift-boated by the Yes on 8 campaign, that we focused on responding to their claims that this was not about schools or not about churches, and therefore it became an issue that was about schools and that was about churches. We just can't take the personhood out of a human rights campaign. The benefit of where we're going with this and some of the stories, when we asked about effective messages, the most effective message out there were personal stories from our families out of all the ones that we had. And when we move ahead, this is the second report that we've produced. Prop 8 Hurt My Family, Ask Me How. That's exactly what this report does. It talks about the No on 8 campaign and the stories that people shared that I think are really important for Californians to hear, particularly as the court takes up this issue I think it's essential that they reflect at the same time whether or not Prop 8 should be overturned, and will agree that no family or individual should go through this. Some of the stories not only talk about same-sex couples who were victims of homophobia, threats, or violence, but that the harm extended to children of same-sex couples, to LGBTI youth, to straight allies, to our families, and to our local communities. Just some of the stories, I'll really quickly go over them. My 6-year-old, the day after we lost Prop 8, asked me with tears running down his face if we were still a family. We received a lot of comments that were similar to that story. This one is from San Bernardino County. I'm a loving parent of 2 young women who happen to be gay, but my opposition to Prop 8 led to my home being vandalized. And when we asked people whether they had experienced any homophobia, hate speech, threats, or violence, the largest group that had done that were were youth, kids under 18. And we witnessed an emboldening of homophobia and bullying in the schools. Students at my high school harassed me. They would chase me down the hallways yelling, "Yes on 8," and call me derogatory names. This was a very common story we heard.
And as an example of some of the great work that's been done post the election, that there's no reason we can't get those ads on the air right now, is, I don't know if you've seen John Ireland and Power Up's GetToKnowUsFirst.com, but let's get those on the air. The No on 8 field plan lacked visibility and missed potential volunteer opportunities. The LGBTI community and our supporters wanted to be engaged in this campaign, but they wanted the opportunity to offer resources, ideas, innovations, and have them implemented. Many had positive volunteer experiences, but we also received many comments from individuals who expressed frustration on the top-down control of the field campaign that either restricted or prevented volunteers from participating. We looked to the Obama campaign, which allowed volunteers to download phone numbers and scripts off the web, and we see some new opportunities with social software and some of the things that have happened since the Stonewall 2.0, shall we say. Let's learn from our youth, my God, follow them. Also, over-reliance on focus group findings discouraged visibility actions and door-to-door canvassing efforts until the very end, emphasizing the primary way was through house parties or for phone banking, which lacks the visibility. And of course, the Yes on 8 campaign diversified their portfolio. They were doing everything, including door-to-door, much more visible, especially in some of our tough areas, which we will talk about in a minute. So what's so important is that we get out there. I think we really saw that on November 15th, the power, the potential of grassroots movements, and for us all to participate in our own revolution. Too bad that, again, that shows what we can do. And we've got our future event, February 12th. Every year we go down to the marriage license counter and ask for marriage licenses. My heart is broken that we will again some of us will be turned away. We're inviting couples who have been married to come, couples who'd want to be married to come, both straight and gay, to really point out that and 13th in LA, right, because your office is closed. So Friday the 13th here, check your website for details. But the point is also the February 16th rally. We wanted to do a quick shout out to Equal Rights Network and the lobby day that Lori McBride and Equality California are putting together. Let's all stay together. Let's stay visible, people.
All right. Our next point is that the No on 8 campaign abandoned our Central Valley supporters. Our supporters in that area had difficulty getting people to participate in this campaign because they reflected back on the Prop 22 campaign, where they were also not respected and included, and this affected their ability to move ahead. They not only felt isolated in their own communities, but they felt betrayed by their own campaign. And these comments are a couple that mirror many, many of the comments that we got. We're drowning in a sea of yellow Yes on 8 signs and ads, and the only thing we hear from No on 8 is requests for more money. And then they were willing to donate and help out. We donated all our money to the No on 8 campaign, but got wedding money to the No on 8 campaign and got nothing out of it. Every single major Central Valley newspaper, the Bakersfield Californian, the Fresno Bee, the Stockton Record, they all came out with No on 8 endorsements. But the first television ad wasn't seen until the weekend before the election. We need to make sure that the people that live in that community need the support, the leadership support, to be able to heal the harm that's been caused and erase the ugly stereotypes that remain from that Yes on It campaign to help us move ahead. Our people live in that community, and we need to all care about that.
30 seconds.
What? Next. Yep. All right, so we've given you this. We knew this was going to happen with the timing. What we can do tomorrow, really briefly, merging old-style grassroots organizing and new technology, exactly what we're doing here today. You know, everyone who's here, we have a way to connect with one another and new ways to do that. And then we can try the next one. Do you want the next one?
So basically, this is our responsibility, our generation's piece of history that we will contribute to the American fabric of moving civil rights forward. This is our honor and our responsibility, and the time is now. So I hope you will all join us, in the next slide as well, in also not only securing marriage equality in California, but we know as goes California, so goes the nation. And there are new opportunities and possibility and hope that yes, we can. And it is time for us to be able to show up on that national level and secure all the undoing DOMA. Don't ask, don't tell. All that stuff is possible. We've got to do that together. And we need to do that with openness, transparency, and accountability to one another. So I know I love my life, I love my wife, and I'm not going to let anyone take that away from me. So we are going, these boots are made for walking. They're going to keep marching until we get that. Thank you, everybody.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much, you guys. Quick note. In your tables, there are some note cards, some index cards. If you have questions, please fill them out. And Anthony and Oscar and Mascar in the back will come and pick them up from you. All right. I'm sorry, we're kind of pressed for time right now, but just go ahead and write out your questions or comments. Because we are moving on to another part of our program, we're going to introduce David Binder, who is a nationally recognized, professionally trained focus group moderator with 25 years of experience in qualitative and quantitative research, and he recently conducted polling for Obama for America and has provided political analysis to government, labor, healthcare, political, and nonprofit organizations. Today, Mr. Binder will talk about Prop 8 post-election California voter survey, which was conducted by David Binder Research. Absolutely. So we're doing Q&A. We'll have a section for people to speak. We're just kind of trying to move around. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name again, but I just wanted to say thank you for feeling so passionately about it. We had a huge planning committee, and we need to honor their work. They worked so hard to put together this agenda and to try and move it along and give the people a chance to speak. So please, I understand your passion, and we are going to need it moving forward. So if we could extend the courtesy to Mr. Binder, who has gone out of his way to make himself available to us, we'll go ahead and move on with the program. Your questions, your comments, please write them down in those note cards, which will be collected throughout the session. Thank you so much, you guys, for understanding.
Thank you all very much for inviting me here today. I'm David Binder from David Binder Research in San Francisco. Let me just start by saying that I absolutely want to hear from people in the crowd today, and I do want to make sure that I have a lot of material to present. I know we've been very good keeping on time. I'm going to go quickly to make sure that we have plenty of time to go back and forth and listen to questions and respond to you, because, you know, as what pollsters do, pollsters and focus group moderators like to, our job is to listen to the people. So I'm going to be presenting you some results here. but I do obviously want to have time to respond to you and listen to your questions and hear from you too. I was commissioned to do a survey. I was actually brought on a little bit later in the campaign, like Chad was mentioning, did some tracking polls at the end of the campaign, but today I'm here to talk about a post-election survey that we conducted for the Quality California Institute that looked at a cross-section of California voters to get their opinions on what happened with Proposition 8. How did they vote? Why did they vote? What were the ads they saw? And so forth. And I'd like you to, I have knowing that, Shumway, actually, could we page through, please, to the slide? Let's go through all that, all the way through. It says summary findings here. We could summarize later if I have time, but I just want to go. I want to start just by doing a quick overview of what happened here in Proposition 8, looking at the numbers, the total numbers, and looking at some of the results regionally, and then talk a little bit about what our survey found. You can see what happened here. These are the final numbers from the Secretary of State. I have the presidential numbers on there because I want to look at a comparison between how Obama did in California versus the No on 8 vote. And you can see there, looking at that graphic there, that there was a significant gap, about 1.8 million voters more for Obama in California than No on 8. And that you can see that the percentage gap there is about 13-14%. So clearly there was a significant number of California voters who were voting Obama for president, yes on 8. And obviously that's a key group that we would need to go back and change the opinions of. Our feeling is if they're voting for Obama for president, they should be voting no on 8. And that's obviously a group that we're going to concentrate on in the future. The next graph shows the map here. You've probably seen these before. There's the map on the left is a Prop 8 vote where the lighter shaded counties are the ones that voted no on 8, and you can see that extends pretty much all through the coastal California, Northern California, and a couple counties over there on the Nevada border. The right-hand map is the Obama map, and there the green is for Obama. So if you look at the darker colors, those are the counties that voted both yes on 8 and for Obama, and you see that a lot of that's in Southern California there. San Diego County, Imperial County, San Bernardino County, these are all areas that voted for Obama and yes on 8. And if you look at the next slide, we've actually broken it out by region there. Two areas stand out as being very different with regard to the Obama vote and the no on 8 vote, and those are the Central Valley, as Pam and Molly just mentioned in their report, where there was a 17-point gap. 46% voted for Obama and only 29% voted no on 8. But the other more, Central Valley is clearly a area that didn't perform to the degree we would like. But the other one is L.A. County, the most populous area, way up at the top there, where you see 69% of L.A. County voting for Obama and only 50% voting no on 8. We actually lost L.A. County, which is clearly the most populous county in an area that needed more work. That gap is something that's not going to be acceptable in the future if gay marriage proponents are to win. LA County needs to deliver more votes for gay marriage. A couple things about this, and then I'm going to move on to the results of our survey. The next slide here shows results from a survey conducted by the Public Policy Institute of California, a post-election survey that they did in December of 2008. Last month, and one of the questions they asked was which one of the 12 state propositions were you most interested in? And look at that graphic. Maybe you can't read it in the back of the room, but there's just one number that overwhelms all the others, and that's for Prop 8. 63% of the states said that they were more interested in that than any other proposition. But one concern that came out in this survey is shown on the next slide, which is that for the yes voters, they were more likely to say it was important than the no voters. The people voted yes on Prop 8. 74% said it was very important to them, while only 59% of the no voters said the same. So what this tells us as analysts is that the yes side was very energized and that there might have been a little bit of complacency on the no side. The yes voters were very strong and passionate. They were out there. To them it was one of the most important things. Well, for both sides it was one of the most important things. But this gap shows more energy, more enthusiasm on the yes side than on the no side. And I know there's a lot of enthusiasm and energy in the room, but some of the supporters through the state, maybe due to complacency, maybe due to some early public polls that gave data different than the one that Chad was talking about earlier before that showed that No on 8 was going to win. It just didn't seem to be quite as important as others. So that's something that we need to think about in the future. Now, let me just spend a few minutes here going on about what we found with regard to the demographic results. Some of this is going to be addressed in the afternoon session, the 1:30 plenary session, so I'm not going to go too much into this right now. But just real quick here, let's just take a look at what we found on our survey. Women actually voted no on 8. 51 to 49, while men were 54-46 yes side. So a little bit of a gender gap. Women more voting for gay marriage than men. A big gap if you look at parents. So the next one, if you look at men parents, 60% voted yes on 8. So women parents, by the way, only 47%. So we found the big gender gap was women that own women that have children versus men that have children. Men that have children much more cautious, voting yes on 8 by higher numbers than women. So there's another group to target in the future. Moving on, we have the age difference there. We didn't show the under 30 group quite as no on 8 as some of the other surveys, but clearly there is an age group, and the 65 plus was the far and away the strongest group in favor of Prop 8, 65 to 35 for that group. So that is a finding that we found all the way through, that there is an age impact here, and the older voters more likely to vote yes. Some people have asked me, does that mean when they all die, do we win? I'm not going to answer that. I'm just going to say that one thing that we do want to do is make sure that young people come out and vote. Young people do tend to be with us, and we need to encourage young people to come out and vote more and more. By ethnicity, this has obviously been the topic of a lot of discussion in the press. I'm not going to spend too much time on it now, except to very quickly say, again, this will be addressed in the afternoon session a little bit more when Patrick Egan and Ken Sherrill present their paper. But we did not find this, as you all, I think you all probably know here, the exit polls produced by the media said that 70% of African Americans voted yes on 8. We only found 58%, not 70% in our study. We think that the 70% figure of African American support for 8 was too high. We were not able to confirm that either by our poll or by looking at precinct data, and I know that there's a whole discussion coming up on that, so I'll go ahead and move on that now. But I will be around later to talk more about our findings with regard to ethnicity. Clearly a huge difference by political party. Democrats 30% yes on 8, while Republicans were 81%. Independents in the middle at 52%. But even more than that, your ideological spectrum, where you put yourself to the very liberal to the very conservative, almost a linear trend there on the next slide. You can see that the more left you are, or actually very liberal and somewhat liberal, we're pretty much the same, voting 80-20, no on 8. And then if you're very conservative, you're 86-14, yes on 8. But clearly ideology, how you consider yourself as a progressive person, a liberal person, or a conservative person, was very telling, very explanatory as far as how you ended up voting on 8. A couple other things before I go into some of our results here, and I'm sorry for talking so fast, but I want to beat the card. I'm going to try to be I have a little more time than the others on the panel, so I thank you all for that. But with regard to religion, we didn't have very many Jewish voters, but 1783 no on 8 for the Jewish voters. Protestants were more yes, and those with no religion were more no. But more than what religion you identify yourself with, the relationship that we found that was more important was your frequency of worship. And you'll see that on the next slide, where of the people that say that they go to church once a week or more, 70% yes, only 30% no, while everybody that does not attend church anywhere near as much, and those that hardly ever, were on the no side by 70-30. And this was another one of the variables that were strongly impactful when we did our analysis, our statistical analysis. Your self-described ideology, the frequency of worship, were factors that predicted the yes on 8 or no on 8 vote more strongly than, and as well as age and some others, more strongly than ethnicity. Education is one that we didn't have in our survey, but we did find this on the other post-election survey done publicly. Thing to point out here is that if you're the higher educated people were more likely to vote no on 8. Meaning education's a big issue here. We have to educate the voters. The voters with less education, high school or not college educated, were the ones that were more likely to vote yes on 8. Just real quick here before I get to some of the other findings here. If you voted for Barack Obama, it was 30-70 no on 8. If you voted for John McCain, it was 86-14 yes on 8. So you can see that gap there. We would like to see the 86 for McCain being 86 no on Obama rather than 70 that was no on 8 for Obama. So clearly that's the area that we need to concentrate on in the future. And then the last one, the demographics. We didn't have very many gay, lesbian people in our survey, but if they did, 5% of them voted yes on 8. So 95 to 5 if you're gay, lesbian, no on 8. The 5% that voted yes on 8, we think probably... I won't finish that. Okay, we'll let you finish that. If you know a gay and lesbian person, by the way, 70% of our sample said they knew a gay lesbian person somewhere in their world, which was higher than what we've seen before. 48-52 no on 8 for those people. If they did not know a lesbian gay person, 60-40, which just goes back to Harvey Milk saying, go out, talk to people, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to your coworkers, let them know you're gay, let them know what you care about the issue. And that theme actually is going to be a theme that I carry on to the following slides here. Because one of the things that we wanted this survey to do is to determine what was the most impactful, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself here. First, what were the reasons for voting yes or no? We asked these in open-ended questions. Yes voters, more than anything else, said that they believe marriage was between a man and a woman or for religious reasons. Those were the things that came out the most from the yes voters. So religion was a big component. This kind of sense that man and woman is marriage was what was repeated back to us more than anything else. On the no side, the next slide, we found people more likely to say that they were voting no because of civil rights, equal rights, freedom to choose whom to marry. Remember, these voters in California are not saying that no on 8 is a gay issue. They are saying that it's an equality issue, it's a fairness issue, it's a freedom issue, it's a civil rights issue. I think it's important for everyone to know. They did, there was a segment that felt that Prop 8 was discriminatory and it's wrong to deny people their rights. So this act of discrimination, as well as a belief in civil rights and equal rights for all, were the driving factors on the no side. But beyond that, what was it that caused people to really vote the way they did? And there were a couple questions we asked on this. One of them was we gave them several options here as to what was the most influential to them in deciding how to vote on Prop 8. We asked them, was it newspaper editorials or articles in the paper? Was it TV ads? Was it religion or the Bible? Was it information in the voter pamphlet? Or was it just your personal opinion? Did you know on your own how you were going to vote and you didn't need any other outside information? Or was it discussion with friends, families, and coworkers? And this is one of the key points in our study. We found that the two that people said much more than any other factor, many more than advertising or news press stories, were discussions with friends, families, coworkers, and personal opinion. Now, those two things, though, affected people differently. And let me show you on the next slide how people that chose that voted. The blue bars are areas in which the no side prevailed. For those people that said the most important thing to me was my discussion with my friend, my family, and coworker, those people went no on 8 by a significant margin, 10 points. 45 yes, 55 no. Of the people that said, I have a personal opinion, I don't want to hear from anyone else, they went on the yes side, the red bar behind it there, second bar, 53 to 47 yes. The ballot pamphlet, the relatively few people that chose that were voted no. The people that said, I rely on religion and the Bible, obviously way yes, 94 to 6, so those people were clearly on the yes side. The television advertisements moved more people on the yes side than the no side, while newspaper articles and newspaper editorials were more on the no side. And there's a little causation thing here. Pollsters always get caught up in this, in the trap. You don't want to say that newspaper articles necessarily cause people to vote no, because the no voters may have been more likely to pay attention to newspaper articles, so we always have that little chicken and egg issue. But the point I think I'd like to leave you with here is that the discussions with friends, families, and coworkers is something that really works on the no side. It really works. And I probably should distinguish between political discussions from volunteers. Those are important too. But I think number one is the idea of friend to friend, coworker to coworker, neighbor to neighbor, family member to family member. Those are the sorts of things that are the most effective at convincing voters to vote no on 8. Okay, a couple other things here before you haven't flashed me a card yet. No, wow, okay. I'm still going to talk fast though. Now I will answer questions later. With regard to which of the campaign communications were effective with people. We first asked them, did you receive certain communications? This slide shows that 90% saw something on TV, 86% got something in the mail, 85% had discussions with friends and families, and there's a big drop-off for phone calls, newspaper endorsements, discussion with clergy, ethnic media, church or synagogue, labor union, websites. But the next slide will show you I'm sorry, there are a couple here that I want to go into a little bit further detail on. Phone calls, 64% did not receive phone calls. There were you could see the graph on the left shows you that about 36% received some phone call and 3% received 6 or more. That's probably from people who in this room were calling, is that right? Called 6 or more times to other people. But the problem here is on the right side, people just don't find phone calls effective. Only 3% said they're more likely to vote yes, 2% no, and 95% no influence. So phone calls are not effective. Seeing gay couples being married on TV, we wanted to ask about that also, and what we found on that one is that most people, this had a divided effect. 80% said that they saw something on television about gay couples being married, and 55% said it made no difference. But of the remaining 25%, it was relatively even. 14% said it made them more likely to vote yes. They were angered by it. 11% said they're more likely to vote no. They liked it. That influenced them to keep same-sex marriage. So that the idea that the TV was showing couples of gay marriage, gay couples getting married, did not impact people one way or another. It was mainly an even effect. On the yes ads, let's just talk real quick about it. Chad mentioned them, and we had some. I have some confirming data here with regard to what he said. On the yes side, we saw about 69% seeing ads. 17% of the people in California said they saw 20 or more yes on 8 ads, so there's quite a reach of them. But the convincingness scores were not that high. Only 9% very convincing and 9% somewhat convincing. 72% said they did not find the yes on 8 ads convincing at all. But the problem there is that that even though we're not getting those great numbers, there were some people that responded to it. And we do have some polling artifacts here. Some people say, I'm never influenced by TV ads, when clearly they are. So we always have to kind of note that when we're doing these sorts of polls. And what did they remember? Well, they remembered more than anything else the fact that Proposition 8 would require, in their mind, the message that they took away from the Yes on 8 campaign is that Proposition 8 was necessary to prevent the teaching of same-sex marriage in the schools. The next slide shows the open-ended question we got to that. 52% didn't remember anything, but among the ads that they did recall, same-sex marriage in the schools being taught was the thing that resonated more than anything else on the Yes on 8 side, and the rest of them are all kind of similar recollections. A child with a book, a prince marrying a prince, a couple people remembered Gavin Newsom. But in general, the message that cut through on the yes side was that Proposition 8 was necessary to prevent the teaching of same-sex marriage in the schools. On the No on 8 ads, we tested several of them here. The one ad that we found that had the greatest reach with people was Dianne Feinstein that Chad made reference to before. 67% recalled seeing that ad. Also, the Samuel L. Jackson narration that ran at the end of the campaign with the Japanese internment camp saying No on 8 was necessary to oppose discrimination was seen by 43%. We asked people that had seen them how effective they were, and the next slide shows that they were all pretty much the same, with the 2 ads doing a little bit more on the effectiveness scale was the ad with Sam and Julia Thoron that mentioned that they wanted the same civil rights for their lesbian daughter as they have for their straight sons. That got a little bit more of a convincingness rating, as well as the history ad, that's the Samuel L. Jackson one that I just mentioned. But all of these were better than what we were finding on the Yes on 8 side, but yet none of them were really that dramatic as people in this campaign felt that they needed to make up. They knew their own mind. They were not as influenced by TV ads as voters in other sorts of campaigns might be, because people came to this campaign with a lot of closed-mindeds. And that's what made this campaign so difficult, because the group of people that we needed to influence is much narrower than you would find in a traditional ballot proposition campaign in California. All right, let me just continue here real quick on the takeaway. Let's skip the next one, show me if you can, and go to the takeaways. A couple things here. I wanted to give you an idea of what it was that people took away from the campaign at the end, because there are a couple key findings here which I'm going to be reiterating before I leave here. We asked people whether they agreed or disagreed with some of the messages that were coming from both sides of the campaign. On the yes side, we found 58% that felt that Prop 8 would preserve traditional marriage, and that clearly was a message that resonated on the yes side. The rest of the ones were less aware. People were not all that clear that it was backed by the Mormon Church. 32% didn't know. The majority of people did not agree that Prop 8 would stop the teaching of same-sex marriage to children in elementary school. So it didn't work. It didn't have that message was not broad, but it was effective with those people that did believe it. Let me go to the other side, though. On our side, a couple things here really important for us to know, because a couple of the messages on the no side were believed by a majority of Californians. Regardless of how you feel about marriage, it's wrong to eliminate the constitutional right. That's the next slide. Yeah. It's wrong to eliminate the constitutional right of equal protection. 52% agreed with us. Look at the next one down there. Prop 8 is unfair, unnecessary, and wrong. 51% agreed with that. Even though we lost the election, 48% voted no on 8, but 51% agreed it was unnecessary and wrong. So why would that happen? Why is it that 51% of California voters, these are the same pool. The pool that I looked at here in the survey, 48% of them voted no, but 51% felt that that Prop 8 was unnecessary, unfair, and wrong. So then we looked just at those people. Who are the people that say it's unnecessary, unfair, and wrong, but yet they're voting yes on 8? The next slide shows that the reason that they were doing it was because it got trumped by this concern for preserving traditional marriage and for stopping the teaching of same-sex marriage to children in elementary school. Last slide is we went to all these people that voted yes and said, hey, is there anything, there's some people who voted no, did so because they believe it's wrong to deny gay people the ability to get married. Is there anything that could change your mind and lead you to support the freedom to marry for everyone someday, and what would it be? 73% said nothing. Another 4% said, I don't know. Another 5% said stuff we couldn't even code. So there's about 82% that said nothing. Only 18% gave us some sort of avenue. 18% of the yes voters gave us some sort of avenue of things that could change. Number one, if same-sex marriage is called something else, well, clearly that's something that's not going to happen. But the other things were if the church somehow says same-sex marriage is okay, or if same-sex marriage is not taught in the school. So our takeaway on this is that the two things that can help move the ball forward with regard to a ballot measure in the future that would enact same-sex marriage is work more with the churches, work more with the clergy, so that people out there get the sense that there is some moderation of opposition from the churches, and also we have to fight the message that a initiative like Proposition 8 is necessary to prevent teaching of same-sex marriage in the schools. Have to address that. Thank you all very much, and I'll be around for questions.
Oh, yeah, I was going to make a note of that right now. Actually, this information just got released today, and it will be available on the Equality California website. So, on the Equality Summit blog. I'm sorry. So, it'll be on both, actually, eqca.com.org. And